Hello, everybody. It is Sugar Team back at it again with another video about Alpha Tail. This time we're going to be tackling it a little different. This time we're going to be kind of talking about the production of Alpha Tail rather than its overarching like what made it into. Goodness, I completely botched that first part. Wow. But you know what? We love for the mistakes. Any point. At any point. Anyway. Point being, we're here to talk about the production of Alpha Tail, not Alpha Tail itself, in the lore context. Of course, we will get to that at some parts of this video, but we are mainly here to have fun, talk about some nice fun facts and little production savviness on its making. This is entirely because I'm doing this because I just haven't been able to get the Eden video out. It has a lot of stuff. It's about an hour long, so for everyone out there, who's been waiting for it, I hope it will come eventually. I promise you. It's just taking me such a long time to do it. So I just hope that you guys will be fine with be fine with it taking a little while. But let's get right into it, shall we? I think one of the biggest changes that came to Alpha Tail in from its earlier years to the years nowadays, especially with all the rewriting and rephrasing, fixing of things, is the sense of tone, which I mean is definitely one of the biggest things that it is known for. Is that dark atmosphere, that feeling of despair, the grim dark, the suffering, the pain, that kind of stuff. It's known for that kind of quality. Before, in like the earlier years of Alpha Tail, it was definitely known that the AU was a lot like After Tail. It was very sad and depressing, and it didn't have a lot of moments of honest levity. Excuse me, there. I had to burp for a second. But there was just a lot of like not too much joy going around in its earlier years, and there definitely and I'll say there's not a lot of it going around in its later years as well, but at least it is split between those two aspects. It feels a little bit more. It feels a lot less. How do I want to put it? A good way to put it would be that it's a little less like Berserk as I initially said it was supposed to be like, and it's more like Vinland Saga nowadays. That's the comparison I can definitely say is the difference between those two. If you don't know those two series, which one, I don't know what the hell are you doing here if you haven't watched or read those two incredible mangas. And of course the second part being I just felt that Vinland Saga had a better tone when it came to how Alpha Tail was supposed to be. It's not too. I mean, yeah, it's dark and all, but in terms of the structuring of that darkness, moments of harshness mixed in with moments of levity and some comedy here and there, I just felt like it just suited better for what I wanted to do with the series now. Now that I've gotten older, gotten better at what I do, and gotten much better at finalizing and figuring things out in terms of like structuring and context placement, of course. Now, if we're gonna talk about changes to AT's formula throughout the years, I think Infected, just like 404, but I think mainly Infected was the one affected probably the most throughout the remaking of the series. He's had his fair share of retcons, rewrites, things changed, lore changed, X, Y, and Z, so on, all that stuff. But he definitely is one of the more affected characters when it comes to the mix-up. One of the biggest things about the mix-up, or not the mix-up, one of the biggest things about his changes was his change from being this avenger, this person who was, done dirty and, wanted to get payback at his wrongdoers, to him being turned into basically this, omniversal, multiversal genocidal maniac who cares for nothing other than killing and murdering everybody in his path with no remorse and no care. Was the idea behind it was because I wanted to have a genuine character in the Undertale AU community that people would legitimately say there's no reasoning with that guy. There is no possible way you could ever have him on a team with people. And like quite literally, the only way that you could have him on a team with somebody is if he just suddenly forgot who he was or why he hated everybody to begin with, or just like mind controlling him. Which even then, that hardly ever works itself in the series. Um, I personally have enjoyed at least a majority of it, and I think the same goes for the community as well. Has enjoyed Infected as a character. He's of course, he's interesting. He brings a lot of conflict to the story, and oftentimes enough, when things aren't going in motion and everyone's just kind of in this stagnant state, he's that one character you can always put your money on to be the guy to incite the chaos, or get everyone moving again. He is that force. He is that unstoppable force that will always have something to be doing. And I think and I believe his wanting just to cause pain and suffering is a more than good enough goal for that to be the case. Now, unfortunately, these changes have caused some unfortunate things to be put out about him, and unfortunate moments for the series as well, as would any character like himself, especially anything when it comes to him. He's not exactly meant to be kid friendly or shit, even teen friendly. He's very much targeted in those higher upper adult ranges when it comes to his character. I figured that just only made sense for him. But just like when it came to maturing and finalizing and just reaffirming what the tone was for Alpha Tail itself, I inevitably did find that with Infected as well. And just like with Alpha Tail in his current years, he will also be treated with just that amount of respect and with the same amount of maturity as the rest of the series is going to be done in as well. Since we talked about Infected before, it's only right that we talk about his other half, 404, William Dingaster. Now, I'm not going to do it for all the brothers, as I feel, that could be another video in itself. If this one does really well, and you guys want more, interesting facts or lore talk or production lore talk on the characters, then I will definitely put that up. But for now, it'll just be these two, poster board style. Anywho, now then, I think it only makes sense that we cover the biggest change to 404, and that was changing him from the stereotype that people tend to believe him to be, to which he actually was semi-designed around the idea of, to the his in-depth, highly sensitive character self that he is nowadays. Because 404 at the start of his production, yeah, he definitely was meant to be that really, overly strong Saitama-esque kind of character. One shots everything, it's done, it's a done deal. That was his character. And that basically is kind of what spearheaded him at the start of the series. That kind of was what gained everyone's interest. But also there was also that one tidbit as well, and that tidbit of other interest in him, which was people interested in his story from the first AU. What could that be? What was it like? What did it have? Who was in it? All these other questions about it. And so that also did spark my interest in furthering his character beyond just that aspect. And I think that's been the biggest change for him, especially writing wise. And I think a lot of the other writers as well that do their own Alpha Tail takes on his character also should follow in that footstep as well. 4-4 isn't interesting because of how strong he is. That's any character in fiction with anything remotely towards power fantasy play. He's interesting because of the obstacles that he can't overcome with his power alone. He couldn't beat Null just by using his power. He had to fight him in a philosophical battle in terms of wits, who was right and who was wrong over the ideals and what the multiverse really needed. He doesn't beat Infected at the end of the series. Spoilers, by the way. So I guess I should have put that out. Spoilers if you haven't read Fate Seeker or finished Fate Seeker. But he doesn't beat Infected kill him basically at the end of the series, you know, just because he's stronger than him. He beats him because he comes to terms with himself, who he is and what kind of person he's meant to be, and figures out exactly what he needs to be. And from then on, he gets that extra strength he needs, not only just to get that boost in strength, but also get that sense of nerve in him to do what he has, even though he's wanted to do it, just like Infected, he's been hesitant to do it all these years, because there's that blame, there's that guilt that he's only here because of what he did. And I believe that extra bit 4404, that extra bit of character for him, is exactly why people love him. That's exactly what keeps him the icon of the series. That's exactly what keeps him in conversations when it comes to one of the best characters in the fandom. He has that extra bit of lore depth to his character. He just feels more real than most others. It's that extra bit I feel that people miss from Era Sans all those years ago. The extra bit of depth to his character that we just never got for him. And we still haven't really got for him over the years. But 404, basically the proto Era Sans is he has all this lore, has all the intricate emotions. We get to see an entire spectrum of who he is, what he does, and basically just everything about him. And I feel like that's exactly what makes him such a likable and interesting character. Hardly do you hear too much about people hating on his character. You hear more people hating about what he represents in his role. But really, and this goes again into the other change about his character, he represents the struggle, is what he represents. Before that, in the, what is it, the oldest variations of Alpha Tail, he always was meant to embody power, domination, and authority. And while he definitely does still have those aspects about his character that still exist to this day, he has embodied the aspect of the struggle for a happy ending, just as much, if not way, way more. It's embodied in everything about his character, from how he fights, from how he talks, and shit, even to his character design as well, which we can obviously get into another time as well, character designs, all that stuff. But there's definitely something about 404 that I loved since the beginning. His progression from being the regular old, he's just strong for the sake of being strong, to being, his strength is his biggest curse kind of feeling. And that's been one of my favorite changes in Alpha Tail by far. And I think for the last thing to talk about in terms of changes, at least for this video, for as long as short as it may be, we'll see how it comes when I get to editing. But the last comparison I want to make for early and late Alpha Tail are the fights. The fight scenes for Alpha Tail in the early days is that there were tons and tons of fights, and while there are plenty that people love and they have some of their favorites, like Omni versus just 404, 404 versus 404 versus Alpha, 404 versus Alpha, and what's another one that people, that's right, 404 versus Hellseeker, or Perfect 404 versus Hellseeker. It's also a fight that people do enjoy as well. I'm sure there's also some very notable Eden fights as well, but this is Alpha Tail oriented, so I'm going to keep it to that. Point being is that there were a lot of fights in the early years of Alpha Tail, and not to say that the fights were bad or that there's anything wrong with the fight, with there being as many fights as there were. I just felt like it should have balanced out evenly well with Alpha Tail's other moments that it's notable for, such as its quieter moments, or the moments where characters are talking and you get to see a lot into how they are, who they are, and so on. That's one of the things that keeps the series, standing out amongst a lot of other ones out there as well. The characters, when they get a chance, have a pretty high focus put on them that gives you a chance to understand them and see them for who they are. and there wasn't as much of that as there definitely should have been early on. I am glad that the rewrites and the new material coming out for Alpha Tail nowadays features much more of that. We get to see more of these characters and see a lot more of what makes them into who they are. You know, these genuine fixes that are doing justice to these characters that people have come to love and adore. So I am glad for that change as well. It's something that wasn't seen a lot in the earlier years, and it's definitely something now that we can come to appreciate much, much more. Well, I think that's gonna do it for this video. It was really fun, kind of going through this. I had to kind of actually look back at some old Alpha Tail encyclopedia stuff in the archive and see what was going on way back when and what was happening in between these certain time intervals. But I had a lot of fun making this video. I think I'll definitely do another one of it. Maybe another one that's more character focused on certain characters that you guys pick out. We'll see how that works out. But I was happy to do this video. Again, I'm sorry that the Eden video is taking so long. It is probably one of my longer videos that I've made on this channel. So I'm hoping that it comes out right, and I want to make sure you guys are done right, or done right by you. So, just give me a little bit more time. I wasn't expecting it to be as long as I recorded it to be. I had to definitely mince out a lot of the fat in it for sure, but it will. I hope you guys will enjoy it when it comes out. But thank you all so much for watching yet again. It's always a pleasure to do these videos with you guys, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day or night. Take care.